Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the publisher, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking with Eagle McMahon after his win at the Great Lakes Open. We're going to be looking ahead to the Preserve, and we're going to talk a little bit about James Conrad's envy a little bit later on. So stay with us for that. Josh, how's your week going so far?
Good. I took a break from disc golf last night. My wife and I went to a local, double A, single A baseball game.
That's the best.
It's a little farm league. Oh, it was great. Our home team mercy ruled the other team. I didn't know they had a mercy rule. It was 21-11 at the bottom of the seventh, and then we were done. Defense was not a thing in this game. So many errors, but you know what? Hot bats. That's the kind of baseball I want to go watch when I pay $5 and I'm eating popcorn. So.
That's awesome. I mean, I grew up on minor league baseball. Albuquerque Isotopes, named after the Simpsons episode when the Springfield team moves to Albuquerque. They have very cool gear. And yeah, it was the Dukes when I was a kid, and then it was the Isotopes. And someday we'll have minor league disc golf, and you can just go watch the up-and-comers. We're not going to belabor the show here with a long intro. We're just going to get right into this interview with Eagle McMahon. Stay with us. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Pound is consistently innovating. They're working on some new stuff right now. They've got a fly pack in the works, a full-sized carry-on bag with adjustable backpack straps, all of the pockets you could possibly need. It's going to solve all of your travel needs anytime you want to go somewhere. You don't have to check a bag. You don't have to pay for that. Just bring the fly pack. And how about the Rufus, the new smaller designed disc golf bag? It's the one I'm waiting for. They're in the works. Check out all the options that you can get right now at pounddiscgolf.com. Follow them on social media to see some of the things that they're working on. Joining us now on the Upshot is Eagle McMahon. He's, of course, the winner of the Great Lakes Open this past weekend and winner of 4 Disc Golf Pro Tour events this season. Hello, Eagle. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Well, thanks for joining us. This has been a very interesting season so far. We've got the national tour back. We've got, world championships happening. I guess when you look at this year compared to last year, how are you feeling about the way things are going for you and your game and just sort of like overall for the sport?
Yeah, this year, 2021 is definitely a real season. I don't want to take away from like some of the events that happened last year because obviously they took a lot of work to put on, but there was a lot of uncertainty, especially at Waco from that the time where we were all in lockdown. We didn't really know what disc golf's future was. It was only till later in the year where we really started to see the growth. But this year, the World Championships happened, like you said. USDGC late in the year, and then we're getting full-on national tour and full-on disc golf pro tour with only, I think, one event being canceled, the Beaver State Fling. So really positive all around for disc golf, and it's giving the players a bunch of events to prove themselves at.
How do you feel like you're playing this year?
Yeah, I feel like I'm having a very good year. I had a good off season, put in a lot of work, but it's really tough out there. To travel so much, to try to keep like a routine is the toughest thing I've ever done, because you get so lost in hanging out with friends or the place you're at. There's so many things you want to do, but you only have time for so many. You're gonna have to pick your battle. So I feel like I play my best when I can put myself first and get my rest, get my practice, get my my time to train, and I've been able to do that fairly well this year. So it's paying off so far.
What did some of the off-season training look like for you? I know we've spoken with some players before who say that it's primarily strength work or conditioning, whereas others focus a lot more on their, technical and golf skills. So for you, what does that look like? What does training look like in the off-season?
Yeah, so it's always changing for me. The three main areas I focus on primarily are strength training slash building endurance. Uh, I really like to focus on my mental game, try to, kind of think about what were my issues in the prior season and addressing them in the off season, figuring out ways to cope, on the course. That's always beneficial. And, you know, then I may be throwing some shots here and there, but I really am more focused on what's in the gym and creating the habit. Oh yeah, and diet. Making sure I am eating all the right things, because if you train and eat a bad diet, that's just going to slow down the whole process and maybe not even make it worthwhile.
I'm curious how, like, what you self-diagnosed as issues that you needed to fix from last year. So, like, what were you working on in the, like, disc golf specific department in terms of, hey, I want to make sure that I get better at this in order to be able to come out and, win I mean, you're dominating on the Disc Golf Pro Tour right now. Let's be honest.
Yeah, so when I say that's kind of a broad sense, it's kind of hard to like if I said, oh, what issues does Paul Macbeth have? Like, it's kind of hard for me to speak on his behalf because he's his own person. So
Sure.
I can't really pinpoint anything in particular, but we all, if I feel like we're all self-critical to a certain extent. So just reflecting back, there's things that I know I can improve upon no matter how well I do it. Like, I can look at D-Glow, I can look at uh, OTB or Portland Open and look at things I could have improved upon, even though I did win those events. So it's not, it's even when you do good, in my mindset, you can always do better.
In terms of the season, I think it's certain that you probably play less events than most of your competitors at the same level as you. You don't play, I don't think, any Silver Series this season, and you missed a couple, like Masters Cup, for example. What is the reason for missing some of those events, including the smaller Silver Series? Is it rest? Is it focus? What is it that you choose to prioritize? How do you prioritize your schedule?
Yeah, so this might be a, a little bit of a hot take, but I think there's too many events on tour right now for the players because if we compare a professional disc golfer to any other athlete, it's we can obviously you would think ball golf, but it's almost completely different in the format where we travel. I mean, the ball golfers are probably flying first class, if not on a private jet, to all their events. And then the only other parallel I can find is maybe a professional baseball player, because they're playing so many games. And we play at a tournament, or we can play a tournament almost every weekend. But if you go to Jomez or if you go to Central Coast a while back, they are measuring the speed on people's shots. And if you
Yeah.
look at D-Glow this past week, there's quite a few shots that I've thrown over 80 miles per hour, and that's almost like throwing a pitch in baseball. And I throw pretty hard forehand and backhand, and if I play as much as everyone else, I feel like my I'm not going to be able to play for as long. So it's kind of looking out for myself. So I'm trying to make sure I can play at a high level by going home, visiting like physical therapists, and getting in the gym, But not to say like I'm having any like really bad injuries right now, but that's kind of more of me looking out for myself in the future because I want to be able to compete for a long time. So, maybe skipping like a Masters Cup was because there was a stretch of back to back to back events. And, I felt like it was more beneficial for me to take off an event rather than play it. And especially with the Silver Series, like, if I'm going to use my talent, I'd rather use it on the Elite Series stage, to maximize my time on the course rather than, playing an event that, has a
Yeah. So I mean,
smaller field.
oh, sorry. Yeah. So speaking of back to back to back events, I mean we've got 4 in a row right now, all Pro Tour. How do you manage this stretch of the season, which is kind of grueling? You have Worlds, everybody kind of takes a little breather, and then boom, we're right back into this pretty intense stretch of disc golf with a lot of courses that are going to require a lot of powerful shots, and kind of gets at what you're talking about. So how do you manage this? I mean, I see you're signed up for everything. Do you just have to kind of grit your teeth and play through it?
Yeah, there'd definitely be some gritting teeth, but the way I'm trying to look at it is that, you know, it's one big event this entire month. Like as soon as you're done, you kind of have to get back into disc golf mode, recovery mode. And you know, if you look at OTB, if you look at Portland or Vegas, I've actually had some time to like decompress after the event. But this is like I just got done with D-Glow, and then I had to drive 10 hours to Minnesota and then practice a course with 3 holes over 1,000 feet. So it's tough on the body, it's tough on the mind, but running with momentum and confidence from the prior event, having the confidence in the ability that you put work into and relying on that more than, let's say, excess preparation that you I would normally get on on a practice round. That's what I'm kind of looking to do. So like, maybe limiting my shots during practice, but also, really trying to uh diagnose the hole when I'm on it so I can, make the best decision and kind of be more strategic than I would normally be.
Would you say then in some of these practice rounds, you've almost given yourself like a pitch count that you can only throw so many shots, and then once you've hit that, you're done? Or is it more off of feeling that, oh, my arm's getting a little tired now, that's going to be it for me today? Or how do you gauge, I guess, the intensity of a practice round in a stretch like this?
Yeah, so one thing I did at D-Glow that I really didn't like that I did was the the first practice round I played on Monday, I was just throwing like 4 or 5 shots in each hole, and that just kind of wrecked my arm really bad. And it also kind of opened up a cut on my finger that is reoccurring. So I had to, put new skin over it all week, put super glue on it to keep it sealed. So definitely don't want to do that again at the preserve. I took Monday off, and then yesterday I just threw like a one shot round just to see the course. Seeing the course is really crucial because then you kind of have an idea on what to do in the coming practice days. So pitch count is important, but like for me is like I think getting at least 3 practice rounds is really good. Uh, I really just try to get an idea what you need to do on the course, and then basically ramp up from there. Try to play like a tournament style practice round, know know the landing zones on the holes, and then I like to create a game plan, what I'm going to throw on the course during the event, so kind of the decision's already made for me. So like if I decide to make a shot on impulse and it turns out bad, I'm going to be frustrated there. But if like I pre-anticipate that shot and go off the game plan, I can't really be mad at myself because I put focus and intention prior to stepping up on the hole. I know what I was going to do. So that's kind of like how I approach my practice on the courses. And sometimes I have less practice rounds. Like next week, uh, I am playing Ledgestone, which is on 2 courses, but I'm deciding. I've got invited to this course in Missouri, and GK Pro's filming a skins match there, and the owner of the course is paying like a really hefty appearance fee for the players to come out. So I chose to do that, and I'm only going to get like 1 round of practice on each course. So, it's kind of learning how to adapt the best you can to each situation. But it's really a matter of the mind, how you can trick your mind to thinking that you're confident.
We've been hearing about this event coming up, this skins match. I'm going to ask, how much are they paying you to show up?
Yeah, I don't think it's confidential, and if it is, who cares? Let's it's There's 4 players going to be
Yep.
featured. It's going to be James Conrad, Nate Sexton, Saint Lazat, and myself, and we're all getting an appearance fee of $3,000 just to show up.
Wow. I mean, that's
And
almost like winning a tournament, a small tournament.
yeah, exactly. So missing out on some practice rounds at Ledgestone, I think it might be worth it just to make some guaranteed cash. And also, he's adding a bunch of money to the pot for skins. So like the OTB skins are normally $100 per hole. I don't know what the set number for each hole is, but I've heard it's $200 plus a hole. So there's an opportunity to take home some gas money for that event.
Well, they're
Maybe
charging
no gas money for
spectators
the whole year,
$200 a
actually.
pop. Yeah, good point. They're charging spectators $200 a pop. That's the most expensive ticket of the year right now. I'm wondering how many people will pay, but I mean, that sounds like it's going right to the skins.
I think so. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun, even though it does make the schedule even crazier.
All right. Before we ask you a little bit about this weekend's event, I wrote an article last year kind of looking at the player of the year race, which was, incredibly competitive. And there were like 6 or 7 guys who really felt like they were in the conversation. And you commented on Facebook and said, I think Paul Macbeth should win it because he's been the most consistent player this year when you look at the numbers. And so I want to ask you today, if the season ended now, who wins player of the year in MPO?
Yeah. So I always I always hate questions like this for me personally, just because I don't like talking about myself and I don't want to give myself more credit than I really deserve. Um, but you could just I think UDisc is a really great way of keeping stats, and I like their power rankings. Um, but I kind of like to leave it up to the people to decide. Usually when I'm looking or like comparing myself to the other top players, I kind of go by, how many wins they have, and then like what other tournaments have they played and where have they finished? Have they played like, you know, have they gotten like top 20 in some events, a top 30? How many blemishes are on there? Uh, you know, so things like that are something to look at. Cash earnings. If you're making more money, that means you're playing better most of the time. So, looking at some of those things is important, but it's kind of hard to say like what's more important. Like, would you rather have a season full of like top 5 finishes with no wins, or would you rather have like 5 big wins and then kind of be all over the place? Like, what's valued at more? So, I'll leave this one up to the people to decide. And the season's far from over, and all I can say is that I'm gonna do my best to focus and hopefully try to finish near the top a handful of other times.
Moving to then D-Glow with one of your top finishes, I guess, hole 18 is your hole. I mean, you birdied that now, I think they were saying 6 times over the past 2 years. Like, you haven't missed the birdie on that hole. When you're going into hole 18 then with the stroke up on Kyle Klein, did you feel like it was in the bag? Like, were you just, this is it. Unless Kyle throws it in the bucket right now, he can't stop me. Or were you still a little nervy despite knowing your record on that hole?
I was definitely nervy when I stepped up the tee pad. I remember, the last few times I've been in the winning position, I just my hands kind of go numb and kind of tingly. So I really have to focus on breathing and bringing myself back into the moment as best as I can. But the thought, the idea, how what the heck? It's thundering really bad. I'm out in the car right now. I was like, what is that noise? But yeah, stepping up to that final putt, knowing that uh, I have such a history on that hole, that I won the tournament in the prior year with an outside the circle putt, and knowing that if I hit this, Kyle can't do anything. It was a very empowering, uh, you know, the thought of making it was very empowering. And I was just thinking, just make it. Uh, Last year, like usually my cadence, my rhythm is I putt one, two, three, and then release. And I recall 2020, I went one, two, three, four, then release. So, I took some extra time. Uh, One thing I remember is Portland Open 2019. I just rushed the putt because I was nervous. I wanted to just like throw it in the basket real quick. And, that doesn't do any good. So taking a little extra time, making sure that I give my best, chance. I think that's what's important. And, you know, fortunately, it went my way.
What do you think sets up well for you at D-Glow now that won it 2 years in a row?
They're tough tee shots that require big 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 distance off the tee, but with some control. Uh, I think it's one of the better courses we play on tour. It's kind of Milo-esque, these large grassy fairways, with rough on either side. So I can really excel. I can throw more of a fairway style driver, uh, just as far up the fairway as everyone else, if not further, and with a little bit more control, let's say. So that's really fun. And I grew up playing in Colorado, and there's a lot of elevation there, up and down, and there's not one hole at D-Glow where I think you're throwing flat. So I feel like I've pretty good at putting downhill, pretty good at putting uphill. It makes me kind of think about my putt a little bit more. And if it's I feel like I putted extremely well at this event. So it makes putting more fun. It makes throwing the disc more fun. So I think that all plays a factor in why D-Glow sets up well for me. And also I love it. So it's exciting. So we usually have more fun at things we like. So that probably helps.
Awesome. I want to get your thoughts on Kyle Klein. Some people made a big deal about what you said about him wearing your shirt after the tournament. We thought that was all in good fun, and just curious for your thoughts on him. He's like one of the youngest players on tour right now.
Yeah, I have nothing for admiration and respect for Kyle Klein. I was definitely poking fun at him because it's just funny, like showing up and seeing the guy you're trying to beat wear your shirt. And, it's a very it's an honor though. Like obviously that means he respects me as a player. He also wears Simon's shirt, respects Simon as a player. So I'm very happy that he chose to wear my shirt. But at the same time, I'm just thinking in my head, like, I really don't want to get beat when he's wearing my apparel. So that's kind of what I was getting after. Maybe wear that shirt in the first and second round, but hopefully Discmania can make you a Kyle Klein signature final day jersey, because winning in your own shirt, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you've had a chance to play that many practice rounds yet, but we know there's a new layout this year at the Preserve. What do you think of I think it's Black Bear 2.0? Does it have a little bit more teeth? How is it laying out? I mean, this was a very interesting stop last year because it was just everybody was just birdieing everything, and it was just wide open, no OB, just like super fun watching the disc fly. But it sounds like they've sharpened it up a bit, and I'm curious for your thoughts.
Yeah, I've only gotten to see it one time, and that was just essentially to get a feel for the course. I haven't really tried to, score on it, but it's definitely tougher. Um, Kale added a lot of distance. There's two more par fives, and one of them is 1,500 feet. So
Wow.
there's not there's really not too much OB still. Like, a few of the holes there's some high grass, and then some water that he painted off. But there's it's still watch the disc fly, and if you're out of bounds, it's going to be probably meaning you're wet. So I do like that. It's fair. It's you can marvel at the flight of a disc. Uh, but I think the scoring is going to be a little less than last year, just because some people can't even reach the holes. But I like what he did with the I like what he did with the course, and I think all the changes were positive.
You've spoken a lot about the need for rest and how grueling the tour schedule can be. We've seen a lot of tournaments this year, and especially substitution tournaments due to COVID restrictions. The OTB Open, Portland Open, and now Preserve, which originally was added to the tour in order to make up last season because of our COVID restricted schedule. All three of these courses are incredibly long, and you've spoken to it a little bit about the Preserve now. Do you think that course designers just making courses longer in order to accommodate a pro these days who can throw significantly farther than how courses were designed even 5-10 years ago is going to be detrimental to player health? Or do you think that as long as they're spaced out appropriately, making courses that run 12, 13,000 feet isn't a problem?
I say I lean towards the latter part of the question. I believe that there's a time to showcase different skill sets in disc golf. Ideally you want a course that has a little bit of it all, but just by just by nature, that you're not really going to get that, because if you're starting the year in like Las Vegas, just by the climate, there's not a lot of trees there, so it's going to be really hard to find like a technical wooded course. So you're going to get variety no matter what. Uh, so I think if we're going to move in the direction where we're playing 10,000 foot plus courses, spacing them out accordingly is going to be essential. But it doesn't necessarily take distance to make a really great course. Like if you look at a course like Des Moines, Deglow is a pretty big course, but it's not as big as, let's say, uh, the Portland Open or the OTB Open. So there's ways to design a course where you're throwing more of a technical style shot, but still playing a really challenging hole. So I think the biggest impulse is like people get these ball golf courses and they see like, oh, I could have this crazy par five, and it's fun for sure. But if you're coming off of two or three tournaments, then throwing a 1,500 foot holes, pretty that's pretty mentally grueling and very taxing on the body. So I haven't really it's really hard to figure out that balance. I think course designers, it's becoming more and more of a thing where you can get paid to do it, and people are really trying to hone their craft. So I think you know looking at a certain like template for a course, like I always thought like Yarva is like one of the best courses just because it has literally every style of shot. So like if you could divide a course into, like, a perfect course for me is if you take six holes should be in the woods, six holes should be like a combo of both, and then the other six holes maybe a more on the open side. So right there, it gives players every opportunity to showcase their skill, and also improve on other parts of the game, rather than just one type of shot the whole round.
based on that type of criteria, what would you say is the best course on tour right now?
The best courses on tour, I'm going to say Deglow, Jonesboro, maybe a Fox Run Meadows, Maple Hill, things along those lines. Pickard looked pretty good. Even the preserve, it has wooded holes for sure, and it has a really good variety. So courses like that just showcase everything, every asset of the game. I think that's what makes a great track.
That's what disc golf's all about. All right. So one last question for you, and then we'll let you go. Discmania announced some big changes, opening up, production in their own dedicated factory. How has that impacted you so far?
It's all been positive. It's really exciting that we're making our own discs now, and it allows us bigger freedom. Like some people probably like, oh, you could have just went to Innover Discraft and it would have been like that. But Discmania is a really important brand to me. It's they're from Finland, but if they're based out of Colorado for their U.S. operations. So the fact that I could be representing kind of like a home style brand is really cool. I take a lot of pride in being from Colorado, and Austin Montgomery, basically, a person that I played with a lot growing up. He's the director of operations in Colorado, so he's basically hired like all my old friends from playing back in the day at the warehouse. So when I go to the warehouse, it's all people that I know from growing up playing disc golf, and I think that's really cool. So staying with Discmania was something I really wanted to do. I had offers from other companies, but ultimately Discmania was able to invest in themselves and really put themselves in the position they needed to try and become as big as they possibly can be. Because if we're relying on Innova or another manufacturer to make our discs, then there's a limit to how much we can grow. And now pretty much the sky is the limit, as long as we put in the work and are able to deliver good product.
All right. Well, Eagle, thanks so much for taking the time at this early hour, and good luck this weekend at the Preserve.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Eagle McMahon with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Thanks again to Eagle McMahon for coming on and talking with us. We were hoping to talk to Cale LaVisca as well, of course, who's the designer of the Preserve courses up at the Airborne Preserve in Minnesota, but he is just too busy this week getting ready for the tournament to stop by. But we've taken a look at the caddy book, and we're going to talk a bunch about some of the changes and what this course kind of brings to the table. First, though, Josh, your thoughts on what Eagle had to say?
I think Eagle hit on a couple points that we've been talking about since I've been on the show. The question of the distance of courses, about how players are having to manage that schedule, about the idea of pitch count, how many throws you can throw and still be comfortable. All those things are things obviously that are on players' minds, and I think Eagle, I don't know if I'd say more so, but definitely takes that as a priority in his consideration of his schedule. Is something that we've kind of alluded to and expected and guessed at, but it's interesting to hear how he then plans that schedule and his practice rounds. How many throws he's throwing per practice round and what he uses those practice rounds to achieve. So it's just interesting, I think, to hear it from a pro about the ways that they're having to manage kind of the grinds of tour in a way that we've talked about a little bit so far.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting to me, you often hear people say, well, the pros just advocate for courses that play to their skill set, And Eagle is not out here saying, give me all of the totally open bomber courses, where it must be noted, he has been clearly the best player. Like Vegas, OTB, Portland, he's advocating for balanced courses with a mix of shots, technical and long. Now, obviously, he's a tremendous player that can win on any course, but I think if he was trying to just maximize his pure odds of winning all the time, he would want to have just bombers because he can throw farther, right? He's talking about how he's throwing a fairway driver when everybody else has to throw driver, and he's still out driving them. That is obviously an incredibly valuable skill. And for, those of us who play, MA2, borderline MA1, and we play with our buddies who are like, in MPO, it's like, well, you know what? They're always throwing further than you, and therefore you bleed strokes. I also want to say, very interesting to hear about this appearance fee, $3,000. I mean, everybody's going to have a point at which they'll say, you know what, I won't play the tournament this weekend if I can get X, Y, or Z. That's obviously not a choice that he's making here, but I think it's very interesting to see, and I will not be surprised if that's where things trend. If you want pros to show up and, do something for you, like play on your course or shoot a video with you or something like that, they're going to be like, okay, well, how much are you going to pay me? And there's pros and cons to that, but I think it's obviously good for the players to have that opportunity.
Most definitely. The one thing I think is interesting though is, we kind of got Eagle and the other guys here. We don't know if was Ricky offered the $3,000 and he turned it down. Was Paul offered the $3,000 and he turned it down? We don't know, but we know for the guys who are playing, including Eagle, that $3,000, and it's noteworthy. Eagle is the most conscientious of his tour schedule, or one of at least. He is admitted that he is going, takes practice rounds easier so that he can decrease his throws, but he's going to go out of his way in what is perhaps one of the most grueling months of the tour in order to go play this skins match because they met his price point. So there's a point that they will leave events if the cash isn't there. And I think it's also noteworthy then that if you compare payouts for events, pros all the time talk about that. They oftentimes will be very praise heavy of a tournament that increased their payouts with added cash.
Yep.
And rightfully so. But I think that if tournaments on tour, if the Pro Tour doesn't just take it over and then just handle all of it themselves, right? If they just say, we're going to handle all payouts, we're going to get the sponsors, bring what added cash you can, but we'll take care of most of it. I could see that being a possibility. But otherwise, if tournaments are still required and really kind of addressing that idea of cash themselves, I think that the tour schedule is going to become, if an event doesn't meet the necessary standards, you're going to have pros fall off. You're not going to have them showing up. And that's why they are still at elite or at Silver Series events noteworthy right now, because the payouts at Silver Series events are just as good at Elite Series events. So until that price point begins to create some separation, I think that players are just going to play where that money, they're going to continue to play where the money takes them, whether that's on the tour or not.
So, by the way, this course is called Eagles Crossing Disc Golf Course. It's in Hawk Point, Missouri. And it's getting some buzz as one of the best courses in the world already. Now, we haven't seen it yet. We're going to get a chance to watch some pros play it and get their take. Somebody in the Ulti-World Disc Golf Discord, Calvin, took some photos. He said he had a chance to play it, and it's definitely the best course that he has ever played. Better than Harmony Bends and Preserve. There's some beautiful features. There's like a giant, sort of pyramid type green with the basket up at the top of a, 5-tiered round pyramid. And as I mentioned during the interview with Eagle, they're charging $200 for spectators to come and watch this event. Lunch is included. So, good value there. No, but how about that?
Better be steak and lobster.
29 people have signed up as a spectator to come out and watch at $200 a pop. Would you, Josh, pay $200 to go watch a skins match?
Probably not to watch a skins match. No.
What if your 4 favorite players were playing? Would you do it then?
I would call you, Charlie, and ask if I can get a media pass. No,
I don't even pay $200 for Knicks basketball tickets.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I really don't. Like, and I don't even know if you were like, well, what would make that like $200 worth it? And I'm like a meet and greet with the players. I'm like, no, I don't even think that does it. Like, that's a high price point. That's really high.
It's really high. I mean, I would consider paying $200 if I was like ultra VIP at a major.
Yes.
And like I got like, free food and drink or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the like shade tent and the air conditioning. And I got, a disc bag and, like I feel like you need to sweeten the pot a little bit. I mean, it's still disc golf, folks. Like let's just dial it back a little bit. But at the other hand, like 29 people have paid. So like clearly there is some level of demand even at that price. I can't believe it, to be honest. I mean, that's almost $6,000 in entry fees for spectators. So hey, I guess if you can get the money, you get the money. But I feel like, maybe do $100 or like $50 and have more spots. Feel like that would fill more. I don't know.
So the one thing I do want to say, I think a part of the reason why I wouldn't pay that much is if you're like, oh, you could do a meet and greet with the pros. I'd be like, I'll just go to the next Silver Series event and get them to sign my discs there. Like, yeah, exactly. It's not like the exclusivity of pros right now is not to the point that paying that premium, because if you said, oh, like people are like meet and greet with all your favorite NFL players, people would drop that $200 so fast.
Good point.
So fast. But it's because your opportunity to meet one of my personal favorites, like Von Miller, for example, just isn't going to happen. I'm never going to meet Von Miller. Right? I could, with a little bit of effort and planning, very easily meet several of these pros, at least for a few minutes, if I was smart about the tournament that I went to. So I think it's in the interest of event organizers, both for skins match, for those who want to like sell memorabilia, signed jerseys, signed discs, to increase the exclusivity of access to pros. Because otherwise, and that's why
this
like
is
signature
going to be
discs,
an incredibly unpopular opinion that you're espousing.
Yes, I know it is. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying I love the access to pros. I think it's great. But for event organizers who are trying to sell tickets right now in the collector's market of disc golf, most signatures hurt the value of a disc.
True.
Because they're like, oh yeah, like I'll walk up to the course and get a disc signed. Like there's no authentication. There's no, because and no one ever asks because yeah, there's signatures everywhere. It's a piece of cake to get a disc signed by a pro these days, and it's to get access to them and get a photo with them. If event organizers were like, yeah, come to Worlds, we're going to have a photo shoot where you can get a photo with your favorite player, it costs $5 a pro, like that they have to create that kind of exclusivity if they want to continue to cash in on it.
Scarcity.
Scarcity. You gotta create it.
Why do you think people go crazy for the discs that you can't get? People stand in line 70 hours to get his Las Vegas Challenge Sexton Firebird. Like it's true. Signatures are cheap right now.
Yeah.
You could just like, if you don't, like, I always see the people who show up for like the final round of a major and they're like in gigantic crowd trying to get a signature. I'm like, no. You come round one and you could talk to every single player as they come off the course. No one will be there. You just go and you'll just get as many signatures as you want. You can talk to the people. Like, it was not a crazy scene early at Worlds this year until like rounds 4 and 5. And I get it, yes. Right? There were more people there. It was the weekend. Everybody piled into 18 at the fort. So it makes sense. But, it's true. If you want to meet players, if you want to get their signature, it's still quite easy. And, especially at smaller tournaments. I mean, I don't know. I think there's still got to be tournaments where a lot of professional players go where you can just walk right onto the course. I mean, that's how it's been for a long time. Now it's changing quickly because there's money to be made. And we're seeing spectator passes get sold out at events throughout this year. That's probably going to continue. Anyway, we're totally off the Eagle topic at this point. Eagle and Simon, I think, just did a disc signing in Milwaukee in like 2 hours and like line out the door, which is really cool. And I think that costs money, if I'm not mistaken.
I couldn't say. I remember seeing it. I don't know if it cost anything.
Don't quote me on that. But, looking at what Eagle's been doing and kind of how he treats his touring season, here's an interesting thing. I hear this all the time, right? So Eagle's saying there's too many tournaments right now for pro players. But when you hear from the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Jeff Spring in interviews says we're going to host tournaments every weekend and pros will just have to decide what they go to. Now, where do you fall in this world? Because the thing is, it's different if every tournament counts the same, or if some are worth less, or if some are just, for fun or whatever. Like, no one's blinking if you skip a Silver Series. But if you skip let's say you skip a tournament in this stretch of 4 tournaments all in a row, people will be like, oh, you're skipping a Pro Tour event. So, there's pressure to play the Elite Series tournaments, and there are a lot of them, including many which are in back-to-back-to-back, in this case, back situations. So do you think there needs to be some massaging of the schedule a little bit as we move forward?
I think that this is going to be the most natural self-selection of the elite tournaments, because you're going to have several players who are like, I'm going to play every single weekend, and that no stop, right? That's just who they are. Fine. That's who they are. They're road warriors. They're just going to get in their van and they're going to drive and they're going to play every single event. Especially as endorsement and sponsorship deals increase in value and people are getting more and more side sponsors as well, and finances become less of a consideration for most tournaments as to whether or not they're going to play it. Because right now, outside of, I would say, I don't know how to put a number on it. Outside of a top select
5%.
Group, yeah, there we go. Outside of top 5%, to skip one of these 4 weeks would be a financially reckless decision.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm just calling your boss and being like, I'm really stressed this month. I'm going to take this week off. There are some differences, but for most of us, that kind of just, of course you need vacation time, you need time off, but this stretch isn't going to be the time most players do it, because financially speaking, it's very lucrative to play all 4 of these events, especially if you can cash at them. And so I think if you have a tournament every single weekend, pros are going to go to it every single weekend for a long time, or a while, at least until those endorsement deals catch up. But once they do, not those elite players aren't going to go to every event. They're going to go to the events that are the best, that are run the best, that are at the best courses, that they have the chance to do a $3,000 if you do an hour meet and greet in the evening, where they set up and create an atmosphere that they find desirable. What that looks like exactly, I'm not positive, but you can be certain that they're going to go to Ledgestone, right? They're going to show up to Ledgestone. They're going to show up to the MVP Open. But if you sandwich events on either side of the MVP Open, more and more players are going to be like Eagle, where it's going to become commonplace for them to skip it. But then if you have a new event that comes up and is an incredible event, like the Des Moines Challenge, for example, I could expect next year we get more pros and a more elite field if the Des Moines Challenge is on the Pro Tour, which I think is the way that self-selection will happen, rather than just we're pulling this for this event. It's just one event slowly gets moved away from while another one really picks up the field.
Yeah. No, I mean, I hard to argue with that assessment. I think my guess is we see some events moved off of Elite Series next year. So however, what is it, like 11 Pro Tours, and then there was a 6 NTs. I think we're going to see some consolidation a little bit down to maybe, we're at 17 or 18 right now. I think we go down to 14 or 15 plus the majors. And not that those other events will not happen, but I don't know that they're all going to get the same treatment. And a lot is going to, of course, hinge on whether the national tour continues to exist. And some of those national tour courses are feeling like they're a little archaic at this point. There's like lots of like legacy, you've been around a long time thing. And like, on the other hand, you've got the Pro Tour just like pushing forward with like new designs. And so I think, how does that shake out? Is the PGA going to continue to try to do NTs, or is it going to get kind of passed over to the Pro Tour? PGA just focusing on the majors. I mean, we of course, we're waiting to find out more about what those decisions are going to be. But I think there are always going to be tournaments every weekend. There are going to be A tiers every weekend that are going to slot themselves in and around the tour. So you're going to have people go and play the Texas Lone Star Classic that has fat added cash. And, that's going to happen. Not every pro is going to go, but some will. And I think the question is, how do you make it so that people don't just burn themselves out? The pros, the media, the tour people. I mean, it's a grind. So, all right. Let's take a look at the Preserve Championship this weekend. Of course, this is Akil Laviska's home course that he built up in Minnesota. First appeared on the Disc Golf Pro Tour last year. Your champions in 2020 were Paige Pierce, big win, 13-stroke win, and Nico Locastro, who got that awesome victory in a birdie fest course. Now, it does look like the course is going to have a bit more teeth this year. Josh, we took a look through the caddy books. What were some of the things that stood out to you as notable changes this year?
The front nine has become more technical. I think just in a broad sense. We started off by going through because the sound of it, at least the way that I saw it on Twitter, it looked like it was like, oh yeah, we made some tweaks, right? And then we started going through the front nine, and there were a lot of changes. And in those changes, I think that what's important is they are working to decrease, even if those shots are open, they feel like they have some variance to them, which I think is a nice addition. The dog leg now that you have on hole 4, I think is valuable. Maybe change those shots, add that variety the Eagle was talking about. And then even if you don't have punishing OB or punishing rough, that variety at the very least is going to challenge different skill sets of different players in a way that we've talked about as being the ideal for Disc Golf Pro Tour events.
Yeah. On hole 2, they've added a second Mando. So there's a double Mando now that forces you to go up the gut into the woods. There's a bunch of changes across the front. Some holes were moved around, in the sequence. Hole 4, as you mentioned, has now got a big dog leg right. Instead of finishing kind of straight over the green, it now dumps back into the woods. 746-foot par 4 for MPO and 675 for FPO. A lot of tee pads moved a little bit, or we're speculating that maybe the measurements are just a little more accurate. There's like lots of 10 to 25 foot changes that don't appear on the map to be significant differences. It's possible. There are some tee pads that clearly moved up or moved back. But there's also a bunch of holes where it seems like maybe the measurements from last year were maybe just not quite as accurately mapped as they got
those
year.
They got those new Bushnell Z rangefinders.
So hole 7, now par 5, 1,111 feet. You kind of have to contend with the river a lot of the way. You can finish right, you can finish left. That'll be definitely a gettable par 5 at 1,100 feet. There's big water carry on hole 8. That's formerly, I think, hole 6. The big, probably new addition that Eagle mentioned is this 1,500 foot par 5, technically 1499. Pretty open. There's some early water carry that would be hard to find, and there's some late OB that would also be kind of hard to find. But I mean, that is long. That is long. Maybe the longest hole that we've seen on tour. I can't think of a time we saw something at 1,500 feet.
I was talking when we were looking at the caddy book. I was like trying to picture, and obviously, I mean, I haven't seen the hole, so like, can Eagle lay down a roller on this hole? Maybe, I don't know. But I was trying to conceive of what 1,500 feet looks like, and I can't do it. It is beyond my ability to conceive what it would be like to have to throw 1,500 feet from one tee pad to one basket, not doing a safari layout round.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, it's like, it's legitimately like 2 par 4s. So it's like a par 8, but actually it's a par 5. The back half of the course is more similar to what it was last year. Mostly minor changes. It's not.
And those are to the tee pads. Lots in the back 9, though. That's where you get the 20 feet forward, 20 feet back tee pad changes.
And it's hard to know without watching the course get played how that's going to affect things. I imagine that, sometimes moving back 20 feet is going to suddenly make that shot a lot trickier. Moving it up, could make it quite a bit easier. I assume that some of those changes were made with last year's scoring in mind. It lays out at par 65, 10,800 feet for MPO, 9,800 feet for FPO. Definitely gold distances, but not the longest course we've seen on tour by any stretch. There are just, compared to some of the big golf coursey layouts, there are just more short technical holes on this course. I mean, there's multiple like sub 400 foot par 3s that are through woods. So that obviously is going to keep the distances down a little bit because they have that to work with.
I think I like the changes just looking at the caddy book. For anyone who's interested before the tournament starts, you can find the caddy book on the Preserve Championships page on the Pro Tour website. That's where we're getting our information. It looks, like you said, it's so hard to tell from just the caddy book what that's going to look like. You can't see elevation. The trees on here are nice little squiggles with a dot to show where the trunk is. Like, I don't know how tall those trees are. I don't know how wide they are. That being said, from what we know about the Preserve and what we've seen, I think it looks like good changes. I think that, it's the Preserve is one of the highest praised courses, I think, from pros. I know last year Simon had a long Instagram or Facebook post about how much he loved having a course where he didn't have the dumb artificial OB that just like you couldn't tell if you were outside the flags or inside from a distance. So pros like Simon Eagle have both talked about how much they enjoy this course. It's Charlie, do you think it's going to be the birdie fest it was last year?
I think we're still going to see really low scores. Will it be quite as significant as last year? Probably not. I think it's going to have a little more teeth this year. But I'm definitely expecting double digits under par.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could you not? Like, even if they tightened it up, I mean, people were shooting like 16 down last year, weren't they? I mean, it was like big scores. Interesting note, in MPO, the front nine has 4 par 3s and the back nine has 6. So I'll be curious to see where the scoring happens. There's some, by the way, there's some long par 3s out there. There's a 525 foot par 3 for MPO and multiple over 400 feet. I'm assuming the 525 is downhill. That's hole 11. I can't imagine that you'd have a par 3 that wasn't downhill with that kind of distance.
You'd think. Guess we'll see. All right, Charlie. I've got our over under for the week, though.
Oh, baby.
While we're on the distance or the talk of scores and distance,
let's quickly assess last week's.
Yes, last week's.
We already went over this maybe in Tuesday,
we did,
didn't we? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I lost. If Kyle Klein had won the tournament, I would have won. but the 45% mark, Eagle finished just underneath it. So this week's over-under, go for it.
We're tied at 3, everybody. I don't know where you're at on terms of our over-under, but tied at 3. So last year, Nico won it with a 41 under par.
Okay.
Second place, Simon Calvin, 40 under par. Emerson, 39 under par, and Drew, 38 under par. So 38 under par or better, up to 41, was what the top 5 was last year.
Okay.
Over-under, winner for this year, 36 under par.
41 was the win last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 5 strokes. I'm going to say there's like more players in the field.
We'll do 35 and a half. How about that? So you can take.
I'll take the over then.
So saying 36 under or
36
better.
under or better.
Okay. So then I've got 35 under or worse being the winning score.
Done.
Okay. There we go.
It's a good number. I
hope
had
so.
to think about it. 35 and a half made the difference for me.
Did it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't make that much of a difference, but I feel like with some more good players in the field this year, like Macbeth didn't play last year, I think that increases the odds of great scores, and it's very hard to know how much harder it's going to be. I could be way off, but like 35 under or 36 under is 12, 12, 12. It feels very doable given what we know from last year. So,
well, Nico's winning score was what, like 14, 14, 13, I guess is what it would average.
Something
that's
like
not
that.
What he shot, but that's about the average.
All right, well, we're going to get to our picks right now. Somebody emailed and said, you need to score your picks. What are you guys doing? And you know what? They're completely right. They're totally right. I'm gonna get his name because I want to give him the shout out here. And he also asked for us to start. This is from Tyler. Asked for us to start doing like a contest with listeners, which I think is a really good idea, but I want to give it a little more consideration on how best to implement it in order to make that possible so that you could make your picks every week and compete along with us. Now, it's very easy to do that, informally right now. Just make your picks, write them down, and we're going to give you the scoring system right now. It's straightforward, and it's fun. It's fun. I like doing the top 5s a little more than the top 3s. So our system is, for every pick that you get right in the top 5, regardless of the order in which they finish, you get 1 point. If you pick the correct winner of the tournament, you get 5 points. If you get all 5 of the top 5 correct, which is difficult and rare, you get a 5-point bonus.
But not in the correct order.
Correct. We're correct. So
if you have the right 5, but they're just shuffled up, that's worth 5 extra points.
That's right. There's a reality TV show on Netflix or something where everybody has a match like predetermined for them. It's like a dating show. And so they all enter the tournament or like the contest, and there's, 10 men and 10 women. And they all have a match that was like picked for them by scientists, and they have to find them. And then like each week they pair off, and then they're told how many are correct and how many are like, incorrect. And they have to like mastermind, which is a great game, by the way, their way to the championship. It's garbage television, but this is the concept that we're getting at here. If you get them top 5 right in any order, you get a 5-point bonus. And if you get them right in the correct order, which I don't think has ever been done in the history of the Upshot, you get a 20-point bonus. And we're going to keep track of scores over time. So looking back at last week, we each scored 5 points. We both got 4 out of 5 right in the FPO division. Paige Pierce, Haley King, Katrina Allen, Kristen Tatar, not in that order. We both had in our top 5. Josh had Lisa Fakis. I had Jessica Weiss. Neither of them finished in the top 5, so no bonus for us. And then we both only picked Eagle McMahon in our top 5. And I had Heimberg, Jones, Macbeth, Dickerson. Josh had Jones, Wysocki, Macbeth, and Heimberg. Those guys played well, but not top 5 well. So we each end with 5 points. And so we hope you will play along with us at home. And at some point, we'll set up an actual contest with prizes and stuff. So let's get to our picks. I am going to go ahead and let you go first, Josh.
All right. I'm going to start with FPO. And, I waited. I have some spicy picks this week, Charlie. I waited until we decided to start scoring to pick people that I have not picked all year long. So, I mentioned this on Tuesday, but I decided to put my money where my mouth is. I've got Deanne Carey in number 5 for FPO.
Okay.
She's been playing well. I don't know what her distance looks like. So this may be a terrible choice in terms of the course. But she's been playing really well. She's got a Silver Series win under her belt. I think she could do well this week as well. I got Jessica Weiss in number 4. Jessica does have power. We know that. And I think it'll be valuable. If any of you are shocked at our top 3, then you have not been paying attention to FPO at all. I've got Katrina Allen in number 3. She's been playing well. She had terrible rollerblades at D-Glow, so maybe it's not fair to say, but she throws far. She's playing well, world champion, but I don't think she's going to match the pace of the 2 women right now who feel like they are in a contest to prove the dominant one right now. Which in my order, Paige Pierce number 2, Kristen Tatar number 1. I almost picked Kristen last week and went with the safe pick, which ended up being wrong. I'm not doing it this week, Charlie. Kristen's taking the dub.
Wow. I love it. Man, Katrina Allen. So sick she won the Worlds. Like, she might not win another tournament this year. It wouldn't be shocking to me. But got the Worlds. I have to say, I think she's lucky that Kristen Tatar didn't have any time to warm up on tournaments before Worlds. We've seen Tatar getting increasingly confident and sharp over the course of her time here in the U.S. So my picks, here we go. Maybe not quite as spicy, but I think they're going to be really good. I think I could nail it, to be honest. I got Jessica Weiss at the 5 spot. Played well here last year, but had one bad round. I think she can clean it up and get herself into the top 5. Missy Gannon, who finished up in the top last year, she was 3rd. I have also top 3, Katrina, Pierce, and Tatar, but not in that order. I have Katrina Allen in the 3 spot. I have Tatar in the 2 spot, and I have Pierce in the 1 spot. I love the Tatar pick. I just think Paige Pierce, we talked about how she was dominant at D-Glow last year. Well, she was really dominant at the Preserve last year. She won by 13 strokes. Come on. Can Tatar match it? Let's find out. I'm excited to watch Bomber course and see what Tatar can do. Obviously she can throw far. I think she's one of the best pure throwers in the game. Just in terms of snap of the disc out of the hand, just the beauty of the shot making. But I think, this is advantage Pierce on this Black Bear course. So there's my top 5. MPO, off you go.
So when we did our stock picks, quick background. When we did our second round of stock picks, I went back and listened to our first stock picks episode. And I was really, really hard on one specific player. And this player's been playing well, and I felt like it was deserved, but maybe a little too much. I've got Ezra Adehold in pick number 5. It throws far, played great at LVC. We know he's got it. He's been playing better lately. He's been moving back up to kind of, I think, where I expected Ezra on the season, right? After the second place finish. Not necessarily top 10 every week, but definitely top 20. He's up in that mark again. I think this course is something that could set up well for him. So I'm giving Ezra the nod. I think he's got it. He obviously does. And I think this might be the tournament for him to show it off. We talked about him on Tuesday. Mr. Simon Lizotte is my number 4 pick. And I made this change just before picks were coming. We were doing it. So, I think Simon played great here last year. Obviously he's got the injury he's been dealing with, but I think that he still has the distance needed to keep up, especially if he has the control. And that's noted by my number 3 pick, James Conrad, who also played excellent last year and isn't known as being the farthest thrower. James can keep up with them, obviously, but that's not Oh yes, James, the one who throws as far as Eagle McMahon. I mean, that's not what he's known for, and so I think that's why both James and Simon are good picks this week. That's my 4 and 3 pick. Then number 2, I'm putting Calvin Heimberg. I didn't want to pick him. I really didn't. I don't know if he's going to bounce back, but I feel like it's you know in baseball when they're like, oh, he's due, he's in a slump, he's due. It's complete garbage. Statistically, there's nothing to it. But Calvin's due, man. He's due, and so I'm putting him in my number 2 spot, even though there's nothing backing that up except my sheer force of will getting Calvin back up in the top competitive again. I mean, he was at Des Moines, but anyway. And then my number 1, I've got Eagle. He played great here last year. Not top 5 noteworthy, but he looks to be in top form. He really does. And I feel like it's hard to pick against Eagle when he looks that well. Maybe it's recency bias, but that's who I've got.
I mean, recency bias is sports. Form matters. I don't think it's recency bias. I think, you're watching the golf. All right. Nice picks. Here's mine. I have Drew Gibson in the 5 spot. Competed well here last year. Kind of course that sets up well for him. There's some holes that he's going to be able to reach that others aren't. I think that sets him up for some good strokes gained. I think he will play well this weekend. 4 spot, I got Emerson Keith, which maybe seems like a strange pick, but Emerson kind of balled out at this tournament last year. He was 39 under, just 2 strokes off the win. And let's be honest, he's playing really well right now. I think we're going to see Emerson show up again and play and play well and compete. He's not been somebody that's been much in my top 5 this year, but he gets in for the preserve. I've got Calvin Heimberg in the 3 spot. Again, played well here last year. I think this is a get right tournament for him, and we're going to see him, sharpen back up. Eagle McMahon for me is in the 2 spot. I think picking Eagle to win is totally sensible. But, you compare what happened last year, where he wins D-Glow and then finishes 6th, 5 shots off the lead at this tournament. I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. In the 1 spot for me, James Conrad. I don't know. I just got a spidey sense on this one. Sometimes you just got to trust your gut. And Conrad played well here last year. Obviously, he's in good form right now, just in general. He was 5 shots off the win a year ago in a season when he was not playing as well as he had in the past. So I think with that in mind, I'm going to take James Conrad to back it up with another Elite Series victory after his World Championship win. And I think this time it will not require a 250-foot throw-in.
Man, you're gonna feel dumb if you're wrong, Charlie. James throws in for the 250-foot eagle on hole 18 to win it. I think at that point, which noteworthy, he hasn't retired that envy.
Okay, I was just thinking about this.
Okay.
If that disc, let's say he retired it, okay, he takes it out.
Sure.
And today puts it up for auction. How much does it sell for?
So the most recent auction, Eagle McMahon sold an Iron Samurai 1, I believe. Maybe it was a 2. That had a triple foil stamp that he had hand stamped at the Discmania factory store. And it had blue, white, and light blue. And it looked dope. It was so cool. And he auctioned it off for charity. And Simon did something with a Sky God as well. And those discs sold for, Simon's was $2,700 and Eagles was $3,300. And noteworthy, it was for charity at a local Colorado charity, but $3,300 in recent time is, what I saw for a one of a kind limited, very sought after collectible disc. I don't have an exact number, but I would bet that envy goes for more than that. So,
well, give me the number. Give me a number. You can come up with a number.
I could see it going for above $5,000.
I think more.
You think more?
I think it could get to 10,000. between 5 and 10 would probably be my like high confidence guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be shocked if it went over 10,000. I mean, we're talking about. Here's the thing about it. Not only is it just like such a wow moment that people will remember forever, like to be able to get imagine being able to get the, basketball that Jordan put in for the game winner. Like, how much would that go for? I mean, we're talking like, obviously it's a different scale when you're talking about NBA and Jordan, probably $1 million, maybe more, the thing about the envy is that if you believe in disc golf, if you think disc golf's, the next big sport, like it's going to keep growing, it's going to get bigger. 5,000, 10,000, that might be a bargain when you're talking about what that disc could be worth in 50 years. Like if you're like, oh, I have the James Conrad 2021 World Championships, throw-in disc, that could be worth some major money, honestly. And, the cool looking, one of a kind stamp disc, whatever, no one's going to remember those discs. I mean, sure, like they'll probably retain some value, but I don't think people are going to be clamoring for the triple foil stamp Iron Samurai in 25 years. I could be wrong. The disc collector market is like totally bizarre to me. It's crazy. But that disc, the James Conrad Envy, you get it. Like, now I have to say, I got to be honest. I think it's surprising that he's continuing to use it. I wouldn't.
Blows my mind.
Not just because like he could make money from it, but just because it's like this historical thing. Like, what if you throw it in a lake and you can't get it back? Like, no, like we can't have that happen. I feel like somebody should say something to him, like, "Hey, man, look, we'll get you another envy. We'll get you 5 envies. We'll break them in for you. We'll beat them in. We'll throw them against the wall in the factory. You can have as many as you want." But like, does he need that specific one? I feel like it has too much historical value at this point to continue to just be in his bag. But it's very James Conrad to me that he's just like, yeah, I still got it. There's like the practice round of Jomez, right? He's just like, yeah. Germ is like freaking out.
Squealing.
Yeah, which, I find that stuff all a little bit much, but I get it. Like, it is pretty crazy to see him just casually throwing it during a practice round.
I'm honestly surprised. Not just like the fact that James does it doesn't completely shock me, but the fact that MVP, like you were kind of talking, like, has it been like, hey, James, give us that disc? Like,
but it's just because I'm like, how is this disc really that special that you can't get another one that does the same thing for you? Like from just like a competitive perspective, I feel like it's just an envy, right?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe this envy is like a one of a kind. You'll never find another one that throws
this
like
is
it.
Like future Greenie.
Imagine if this disc is still being thrown in 5 years and it's just like
crazy.
Destroyed and like unrecognizable. Because if you look at Greenie, you're like, is that a disc, or is that like the lid of like a hotel ice bucket? Like, what is that thing?
And the thing is, like, it's not like he's been throwing MVP just so long that it's like, oh man, this is an irreplaceable disc. Like, I've had it for 4 years. It's like perfect where I want. Like, I know exactly what it's going to do. It's like he had the disc for 6 months. Like, probably not even that long. Get the man another envy. Tell him to put that one in the vault. Like, honestly, like, that's a retirement plan, right? you don't need a 401k, James. Put that in the safe. Lock it up don't leave it in your van. Find somewhere, get a lockbox, go to Credit Suisse or something, fly to Europe, put it in a lockbox, and in 50 years, and you want to retire, you just pull that out and put it up on eBay. Bang. You're done. You're good.
I think if MVP had their way, that thing would be in like bulletproof glass Mona Lisa style display in the center of their factory. Like,
it should be in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame.
It should. It really should.
I mean, I understand if it gets sold on the secondary market, but like eventually somebody should put it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And in other pro sports, when a big crazy thing happens, they save the ball or the implement or whatever because they want to, either preserve it for, being sold as a collector's item, or to be given to the player because that was their 500th home run or something of their career. And, you know, like a fan catches the ball in the stands and the people come out and they say, hey, we really need that ball. That was the 500th home run ball. Like, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z, like free tickets for a season. Like, they'll give you all kinds of stuff because they understand that it's a valuable thing that they're getting from you. But like, you kind of have to look at the bigger picture here. And that's what I'm saying about this. We need to see the bigger picture. I just don't want him to lose it in the water.
Imagine if they gave Kawhi Leonard the ball after Game 7 of, you know, that crazy shot that bounced all over, and then you walked and saw Kawhi playing with that like street ball with that on the asphalt like the next day. Like, that's how that feels right now. It feels sacrilegious a little bit to me, but
and it's partly because of the weird nature of disc golf, where it's like the equipment. It's not like if you hit a golf ball and you make a crazy ace or something. But it's just a golf ball, right? It doesn't matter, right? There's no difference between this golf ball and the next golf ball. But like, there is at least theoretically enough of a difference between discs, which are, you know, the equipment required in disc golf, where you don't necessarily just want to like give it away. But I feel like in this case, we need to make an exception and say, as much as you like this one, please set it aside. This is too important for the history of the game to just stay in your bag and potentially get lost or stolen.
Yeah. Stolen, lost. I mean, we're just going to see a fan come running out in the middle of the fairway and just pick the disc up at the preserve and go running. Just takes off.
Someone's going to fly in and do the crazy tackle like at an NFL game when the fans get on the field. Anyway, let us know your thoughts. Upshot at ultiworld.com. Make sure to tune in for our subscriber bonus segment where we're talking about course design for FPO. What's the current state of things? We see some courses that have done this really well. We've also seen some courses where it's just very much feels like an afterthought. So we're going to talk about that. You can become a subscriber for less than $4 a month at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. That is going to do it for today's show. Did I miss something? I feel like we got on the tangent about the envy. I don't think so. We got our picks in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week on Tuesday. Join us then. We're going to talk about some preserve and get some interviews, and looking forward to chatting with you then. So thanks for being a subscriber. Hey, tell a friend. Tell a friend about the show. We're trying to continue to grow this thing. And if you like the Upshot, please let somebody else know that's a fan of disc golf. We're on YouTube now. We're on, of course, anywhere you get your podcasts. And a review never hurts either. Thanks for being a listener. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week.